I will call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll have roll call, please.
Councilmember Wallers?
Yes.
Paulby? Tillotson? Yes. Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Hughes?
Yes. Citizen comments. First thing we have 2018 financial statements.
Right into it, all right.
Right on the top of the list.
Kind to it.
My name is Derek Flanagan, here representing Ide Bailey to present the 2018 financial statement audit. We're going to do what we've done in the past, which is to walk through the executive summary, which is the small stapled document you have in front of you. The first housekeeping item I'd like to address is it does have the draft stamp on it, and everything is substantially complete. There was a new standard that was applicable this year, GASB 75, and I won't get into the weeds of what that is, but it did take us a little bit of extra time for the wrap-up, and there was a one extra layer of review related to just the application of that standard. Well, that is being completed as we speak, and we anticipate that we'll finish in the coming days, and none of the numbers within your executive summary will change. So I just wanted to address why that draft stamp is on there. We haven't officially dated it yet, but it is substantially complete, and the numbers won't change. As I walk through this document, if you do have any questions or comments or discussion items, please feel free to ask them as they're pertinent to that page, or if you're more comfortable and would rather wait to the end, either way is fine with me. This is meant to be discussionary, so if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask. Page 1, the purpose of this executive summary. This document actually isn't a required document with accounting standards. The financial statements that you have that we came to audit are required to be in a certain format, so we don't have flexibility within those financial statements. So what we did was we created this document to include historical information and graphs and charts, so you can see trend analysis. It gave us that flexibility to include all of that information. With that being said, we do have the ability to modify it as you guys see fit. It's really meant for you, so if there's something that we don't cover that you'd like to see, or vice versa, if there's something we're covering that you don't see any value in, please let us know. We can make changes as you see fit. The financial statements are yours. It is our responsibility to come out and provide an opinion on those financial statements. The opinion you received is a clean, unmodified opinion. That's the opinion you want. So yay, a clean, unmodified year. One other thing to point out is that you did expend over $750,000 in federal funds in the current year, so that triggers a separate audit of federal awards. And you also received an unmodified opinion related to that federal audit. The federal audit includes both compliance and internal control testing, both. So it has a little bit different flavor, but the opinion received was an unmodified opinion. Now getting into the graphs. Page 2 is a pretty simple graph. It is your cash and investment position for each of the years ended on the 5 years presented within that page, just so you can see where your cash and investment position was for each of those 5 years. Last 2 years, you've had some activity, some bond proceeds, which has increased that balance.
Excuse me a minute, Derek. Is that mic on for sure?
Should be, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
We can't tell, so. Okay, because I know I had somebody complain.
He can tell if it's flashing while he's talking, so when he starts talking again, you can check that, Reggie.
Okay.
Flashing? Flashing?
All right, great, thank you. I had a complaint that when somebody talked at that microphone, they couldn't hear him.
Yes.
So, thank you.
Page 3. Along the same lines here, this is a graph on your liquidity position, and your liquidity is a ratio that is calculated, and it's really, in short, it's your ability to pay your bills as they come due. A ratio of 1 would indicate that you have $1 of available cash for every $1 in bills that are currently due, so you would want it to be above 1. You can see the ratio for both the governmental activities alone and then the governmental and business type activities, which would be the city, really the city as a whole, are both above that 1. The city as a whole, the blue figure there, did decline in the current year to 3 from 4.9. And really the biggest factor that related to that was just some construction activity where you had some accounts payable that was currently due, and that really increased the denominator in that ratio. So it was really a timing mechanism where you had those that were currently payable, and that caused the decrease. So nothing that was really a red flag or alarming, just more of a timing of when your payables were due. Page 4. Another ratio here, long-term debt divided by population. And you can see the dollar value there that is calculated and the trend analysis for the 5 years presented. And these are going to be measured as of December 31st, as of your year end for each of the years presented. The increase over the last couple of years coincides with the increased debt that you've taken out, which has been more than debt payments for those years. So correspondingly, the balance has increased. Some analysis on your general fund will begin on page 5. Page 5 and page 6 are in the same format. They are pie chart format, percentage to the total for each category. So you can see how much is being, in this case, general fund revenues on page 5, how much is being received in the general fund for each category. 60% is made up of intergovernmental revenues. Really, comparing 2018 to 2017, no large swings in percentages there. 2%, I believe, was the biggest swing in any one category. Page 6 is the expenditures. Same format here, percentage to the total. And you can see just how much is being spent, in this case being spent, on each category. Page 7 would continue the analysis on the general fund. Now it's in budget to actual, so you guys have set your budget for the general fund, and this will just help you compare the actual results to that budget. So when I look at this page, I focus on the far right 2 columns. The third column is your actual, so that is the figures for your general fund for the year ended December 31st, 2018. And so when I say the year ended December 31st, I mean that this page captures a year's worth of activity. So it would have started for your activity on January 1st and captures all your revenues and expenses for the entire year all the way up to December 31st, 2018. Your revenues were $4,480,166. That was a 7.6% positive variance with your final budget. On the revenue side, when I say a positive variance, I mean that you did receive more than you had anticipated with your final budget. Expenditures were $4,238,190, a 1.3% positive variance on your expenditures. Positive on the expenditure side meaning that you did not spend as much as you had anticipated with your final budget. You did transfer in an amount of, $286,346. So your net change in your fund balance for the general fund was $528,322. So a lot of information on this page, a lot of numbers on this page, but just showing you your results compared to what you had budgeted for the year. The bottom of the page is your fund balance, and that is really what's going to be the analysis on the next 2 pages. Pages 8 and 9 And this is for your general operations department, your Fund 101, general fund. Page 8 gets into some dialogue on what your fund balance is, and in the middle of the page has a couple of benchmarks that we found through our research. The first benchmark that we have is the GFOA, which is more of a national organization, which recommends a policy of 5 to 15%. And when I say 5 to 15%, and we'll get into this on the next page, but what we're doing is we're taking the fund balance as of year end and dividing it by the expenditures to come up with a percentage. And so you'll see on the next page what your percentage is. GFOA recommended 5 to 15. The State of Minnesota Office of the State Auditor recommends 35 to 50%. Your policy that you have enacted is to strive to maintain at least 35%. So you can see what those benchmarks and then also your policy, and now turning to page 9 to see what actual results were, you can see that you're at 55.2%, down from 64.2% in the prior year, and you can see exactly what that fund balance dollar amount is at the bottom of the page for 2018. And the biggest reason for that decrease was transfer out dollars. It was just amounts that were transferred out. If you were to calculate that 55.2% in terms of months, you would have 6.6 months of expenditures in your fund balance. So I think this is one of the more meaningful pages within that executive summary to show where your fund balance is compared to some of those benchmarks plus what you've enacted as a fund balance policy. Page 10. Page 10 has your operating expenditures divided by population. So each of the years then presented would take that year's population and divide it into the operating expenditures. You can see for 2018 that dollar amount is $614. The last 3 years been pretty consistent, no large swings, slight decrease in the current year. Switching gears on page 11, now looking at some of the utility information. This graph on page 11, water, sewer, and refuge funds. This graph has all three of them combined. One thing I do want to point out in the current year within the financial statements is that the sewer fund was broken out as a separate fund in the current year as part of the PFA loan agreement. That was a requirement. We've always analyzed within this executive summary these three funds in totality, but the individual amounts would be in the financial statements. So you can see at the top you have your operating revenues for those three funds, then the green, your operating expenses, and the difference between the two then would be any operating income and or loss if it was negative. See the current year is a slight decrease from the previous year, and in looking in that, in looking into that, one of the reasons for that was just some increased repairs and maintenance in the current year. Just a couple of pages left, almost done here. Pages 12 and 13 are on your liquor store fund, and some analysis there within. The top of the page on page 12 is your results for sales, cost of sales, and then the gross profit. So again, the difference between the sales and the cost of sales is just going to be your gross profit, really consistent over the 5 years presented there. And this, again, captures a year's worth of activity for each of the 5 years presented. The bottom of the page shows some of the non-operating activity, which shows your transfers out and then your net income before transfers. So you can see how much of those liquor store dollars are being transferred out to other city functions. Some analysis on your gross profit percentage. The past 5 years. Current year, 23.1% for your gross profit percentage. in every one of the 5 years presented, you can see that you are between 23 and 24%. So very consistently operates right in that range of 23 to 24%. And that actually is the last page of the I would ask if there are any questions or comments or anything you guys would like to discuss.
On page 5, you talked about intergovernmental revenue. Is that LGA, my assume?
LGA?
Is that
Yep, that's one aspect. Yep, that's probably one of the bigger aspects of it. Yep.
That was 60% as well, right?
Yep.
Yeah, you want to go LGA, what portion of that would be LGA or?
I could get back to you with an exact. I don't know that I feel comfortable estimating right now in case I'm off, but unless you have an idea. In really that category, I mean, just year over year, it's pretty consistent for the 3 years here that are presented, but it can vary just based on any grant dollars that are received in the general fund. If there's one-time grant dollars in 1 year and then the next year you're not eligible for that grant. So there can be swings, but the LGA is more consistent. But because it's a part of that group, sometimes that percentage can go up or down based on grant activity that may occur only in 1 year.
So that would be other revenue, would be grants?
Grants would be within the intergovernmental revenue. If it was received on a state or a federal basis, that would be categorized with intergovernmental revenue.
Okay.
Any other questions or discussionary items?
Oh, thanks for going over this, Derek.
Yeah. Before I guess wrap up, I just want to say that again this year we did have that single audit, so there was a lot on Deb's plate, having to get through both the financial statement audit and the federal audit, and to be presenting here today is a testament to her being organized and having things ready, because it is a lot to get through, and it's just stuff, when we come out and have a request, it's just on top of her regular, day-to-day job duties that she has. And we do have the draft format. As I mentioned, there was a new standard that was applicable this year as well, so that was on top of it as well, and it included approximately 5 pages of additional disclosure within the financial statement. So working through a lot of that stuff. So just wanted to thank her for all of her hard work in getting everything ready and organized and being responsive to our questions during the audit.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in there. Actually, Deb wasn't at the meeting when I talked about the staff and the wonderful job that they did, having a couple people that weren't available up front. So not only was she doing all this, she's doing accounts payable for the city at the same time, and we're so lucky to have the staff that we have. Deb just does a wonderful job taking care of all the financial stuff and the rest of the people that work up front.
Great. Thank you, Derek.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
You too. Okay, any other citizen comments? We have no public hearings. We have reading and approval of minutes from March 26th.
I will move approval of the minutes from the March 26th meeting.
I will second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. And we have the same condensed version of the minutes.
I'll move approval of the condensed version of the March 26th minutes.
I will second that. Any discussion on the condensed version? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. And finally, we had a board of review on April 1st, and we need to approve the massive minutes from the board of review.
I will move approval of the Board of Review minutes from April 1st.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. We have the consent agenda consisting of the audit of city bills, the pay estimate number 19 for the water treatment facility, March transit report, application for exempt permit from Someplace Safe, and raffle license report from the Historical Society. I will move approval of the items on the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion or any questions on any of those items?
Line item 40, I see it's a new entry, at least a different company I'm not familiar with. It says Knife River. Evidently, we must have bought some asphalt from them.
I think that was Patch Materials.
It's the new name for a company that we use, and I can't remember what their old name is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize the name, that's why I remember that. Okay.
Line item 61, Titan Machinery at Airport Plow
Yeah, that was in the budget.
to go on something that we have. Is that just the plow to?
Yeah, it'll go on to a piece of equipment that we have,
Okay.
and then it'll probably be used for other things. Actually, we paid for it. That wasn't part of a airport grant or anything like that.
Thank you.
Any other discussion or questions? I see our transit numbers are up a little bit from last year, so all in favor of the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, carried. Petitions, requests, and communications, we have an Arbor Month proclamation, which I will read. Arbor Month Proclamation 2019, whereas trees conserve and filter rainwater and reduce stormwater runoff, thereby decreasing the pollutants that flow to our rivers and wetlands. And whereas trees shade the shelter of our shade and shelter our buildings, thereby providing substantial economic benefit by reducing heating and cooling costs. Whereas trees absorb air pollutants and hold carbon dioxide, whose release is linked to climate change. Whereas trees provide important food and habitat for wildlife. Whereas trees beautify our city, increase our enjoyment of the outdoors, improve property values, and provide recreational opportunities. Whereas our city's trees are threatened by the emerald ash borer, which has been identified in eastern Minnesota and is likely to spread westward in the state. Whereas the city of Morris has committed to an ongoing community forest program involving the protection of existing trees, including special care of heritage trees and the planting of a robust and diverse mix of boulevard and park trees each year. Whereas Arbor Day has been celebrated since 1872 and is observed this year nationally on Friday, April 26, 2019. Now therefore, I, Sheldon Geese, Mayor of the City of Morris, do hereby proclaim May as Arbor Month, and I urge all citizens of Morris to help care for our trees and to try to plant at least one tree in 2019 to beautify our city, improve our environment, and promote the well-being of present and future generations. And we have a donation coming in for our donation of the police building at Fairgrounds. I didn't quite understand that.
Riverview LLP. It's actually right around $3,400, and they donated the money so that our law enforcement people don't have to sit under a tent at the fairgrounds. So that was a nice little contribution to the city.
There goes our new fire truck if you haven't seen it yet. So, at least we can hear it.
So is it a new building that they're putting
Yeah.
up, or it'll be a brand new?
Yes, so some of our officers last year after the fair went out and kind of talked to some of the businesses, and it's more, they specifically went to Town and Country, talked to them about those sheds that they have across the Atlantic there. We were looking at something along that line. And then it brought to Riverview's attention. They decided they would custom build us a brand new building. It's gonna be in the exact same position, like Blaine said, it's about a $3,400 building. It's a 10 by 16 structure that also about a 5 by 8 portion of that will be enclosed where we can store our stuff overnight. And the rest will be like an open patio. So we have space to move, and we'll make it like around the edges will be, you almost call it tabletop, where we'll have our portfolio, our pamphlets and stuff like that. So
All right.
I'm excited to bring it up here.
Be nice
There's
to
an air conditioner in there for you.
No.
A heater most of the time. All right, great. Thank you, Reggie. So we just need a motion to accept the donation.
I'll make a motion to accept the donation for the police building at the fairgrounds from Riverview LLP.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. We have ordinances and resolution. We have resolution approving an emergency operations plan.
So that's Donna. And you should have got 5 emails from Donna that I forwarded that had the plan in it. We didn't want to kill a tree, so.
Yeah.
So what I can share with you tonight is what would be or what is listed in that plan and what the requirements are. I'll go through that really quick, and then I'll leave this with Blaine so that you have this with you. So emergency management, we fall under state statute chapter 12. We also have two additional chapters, which is 12A for natural disasters, state assistance, so I'll leave that with you. And then also the public disaster assistance, chapter 12B, which we're falling under right now with the flooding. I don't know if you paid attention, but the governor approved the $10 million for Minnesota State Disaster Fund, and that all falls under the state chapter. We also have, which is called our MinWalk, which is 71 requirements to have in that Minnesota or in that Stevens County plan, which if you do adopt that tonight, all of those requirements are in there. And then we also have additional requirements, which I'll also leave, which we're required to have because I, or my wage, we receive funding to pay for. I think it's about $17,000 annually to help pay for my wage through the county. And I think there's about 20 additional requirements on that. And then we also have our SARE Title III Tier 2, which you're probably familiar with, some of you are, which goes through all the hazardous materials requirements that we have to have in our plan and all the planning that we do, which a lot of that we incorporate into our Stevens County Dispatch Center. So when a call comes in, they can pull up all of that information on the location. If there are daycares in that area, any type of other hazardous material that would be in that area that may cause additional consequences to that facility or daycare, or a special home or Westwood Village, whatever you want to look at. The county board did approve by resolution updates to this plan on April 2nd. And I did add some verbiage in there, which we did talk about, which adding the city would then approve by resolution tonight if that goes forward. And then we would work over the next year, and I work closely with Blaine on what you would like to have in here, if we need anything else added to it or changed. And then he would share that with you, so if that's all okay, I will just communicate through Blaine with everything and make sure that we're on the same page. Also the resource manual, so I do have a county resource manual. Chief Teagues did work on that. I think some of his staff worked on that, and I'll work closely with Reggie also to make sure that everything's incorporated into one resource manual. We'll share that information instead of duplicating. I think that would be a better fit for all of us. So that's all I have to share. If you have any questions about the emergency operations plan, I can answer those now.
So one of the things I would share with you is that if we're on our own, we have to do a lot of that stuff. You know, we have to have our own plan. We have to keep up to date on it. We have to, designate how we're going to deal with stuff. And then ultimately, you know, there may be a situation where we wind up interacting with state agencies and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't make any sense for us to duplicate that because we have one of the best emergency management people in the state of Minnesota, really. And you can just tell by the things that are put together. So we work together really well anyway, you know, whether it's in the disaster drills or even in the planning stages and stuff like that. It just makes sense to do this. And when Ross retired, Jim Beauregard and Ross were designated as the emergency management directors for the city. And there was a little bit of money that went to them, and we'll meet and we'll talk with the county about whether or not they want any kind of funding for Donna's services. One of the things I did offer up is that when there's a disaster, whatever it's going to be, for us it's probably going to be a major in the city, a major event like a tornado or a train derailment, those kind of things, because we don't really flood within the city limits. But we're going to work together anyway. I mean, it's just the way it is. When the gas pipeline was cut, you know, then the fire hall opens up and they set up their emergency operations center, and we work with the gas company to try to get everything taken care of. And so it's not a great big leap for us to work with the county. It just really isn't. And you know, who wrote this document?
Yeah, exactly.
The person standing before you, and so it's a good deal for us all the way around. And I would recommend that you pass a resolution adopting this emergency operations plan that was prepared and approved by the county, and then we'll move forward.
I guess the only question that I would have, Donna, is in case of an emergency within the city, what would our structure look like under this plan? I mean, would we be meeting jointly with the county? Would we be just together for the city because it is a city emergency? I guess that's just a question that I have.
It would depend on the situation, of course. But currently, I mean, Reggie, the police chief, and I would work very closely together. And in the plan, I would communicate with mayor. It states now, but it could be whatever we decide. If it's working with Blaine or working with you, whatever you would decide, that is what we can write into the plan. And whatever would work, if maybe Blaine is gone and you're here, Sheldon, or if Sheldon's gone, it would be the two of you, or whoever that mayor is at that time. And of course, Blaine and I will work closely on making sure the plan is updated, so we'll be very.
Yeah, because there may be some things that need to be decided.
Right.
You know, by not by me as a city manager, but sometimes the mayor's given authority in case of emergencies. Sometimes the city council may have to have an emergency meeting to make a decision on something. And especially when you start getting into some of the things with funding, you know, they're gonna want
Right.
certain actions to happen, even a declaration of a disaster in the town.
Yeah.
You know, but then, yeah, it'll all be designated on.
So
Good.
we'll be working closely together, which we would do anyway.
Yeah.
I do see the police chief and I working closely if it's initially, you know, with an emergency, and then
Right.
you would be kept in the loop. And what I usually do is I send out an email with updates. So then that would probably go to Blaine and you, and then you would decide if that should be shared with others. And if we would have a formal meeting, you would be invited into that meeting for sure.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Yes.
I know in the past, with regards to training, you've had, I think we've been involved a little bit with some training exercises. Is that still gonna be the case, or?
Yes. What we're doing for this year is working more with the schools this year. So I've been visiting with the schools in Stevens County, and we have a joint 5-county meeting that I'm setting up, and that will be held in Clinton. And we'll probably alternate different counties, but it's pulling in superintendents and principals, and we're looking at preparing for threats. And Reggie, or the police chief, will also be included in that, and we're all on board, all counties. So we'll have the sheriff, police chief, the superintendents, principals, and others who they feel that they should include in that meeting and training. We have the school safety center coming out from Homeland Security, and we're going to start with the basic information on planning. What resources do you need initially? looking at all of the areas that we would need to cover quickly so that we're all on the same page before something would happen. And so that's just one example of how we're including the city in that planning. It's something that I've wanted to do for quite a few years, and we just haven't had a chance, and it's a perfect opportunity. Reggie is supporting that. You know, it's going to be a good thing that we're doing for the county and for the children in the county, and all the teachers included. And other things is working with our special populations this year, working with Westwind Village closely, and others who provide home care types of services to plan. Through their requirements now, they have to have an exercise, a community-related exercise each year. So this will cover that requirement for them, for their funding that they receive. Yeah, we'll just continue doing as we've done. And we all work together. We have our emergency services meeting every month, and the fire departments, you have your police chief, your fire chief, and all of those already attending that. So I see that continuing and growing.
Very
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, our city makes up half of the county approximately. I think it just makes sense for us to work together. We have been working with the whole group over the number of years, and to continue that, I think just makes sense for us to actually just do a little bit more of it officially or on paper, and to use the expertise that we have in our community.
Right, good.
I should add, Jim Beauregard did help with this, and also Ross Teague, so there are many.
Yeah.
So I cannot take credit for all of this, so there are many, intelligent people who have worked on this over the years, so,
Great. Thank you, Donna.
thank you.
Yeah.
Do I wait for that, or is it approved then?
They'll take up.
We'll act on it right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So,
I will move on that resolution approving an emergency operations plan.
I will second that.
Any further discussion? We'll have roll call vote on the resolution, please.
Councilmember Salvi, Wallers,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Gullickson,
Yes.
Mayor Gee.
Yes. Thank you, Donna.
all right,
Thank you. If you have any questions, let me know.
all right, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Donna.
Thanks for coming.
Okay, then we have a resolution accepting a bid for the 2019 street improvement and reclaim projects.
So we had 3 bids. Riley Brothers was the low bidder. Actually, it was very close.
Very close.
Which we've actually seen that before. So I did indicate in here that there's about 462,000 of that is for state aid highway work on East 7th Street, and that's funded through the state aid highway money. Then the rest comes out of franchise fees, about $77,000. And it actually I didn't put in here. I think the engineer's estimate was just slightly above what the bid came in at. Not much though, so it came in right around where they're at. I don't know if you put that on this bid tab. No. So the recommendation is to accept the bid from Riley's for the 2019 improvement project.
I will move on the resolution accepting the low bid for the 2019 street improvement project from Riley Brothers in Morse for $739,943.29.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Nice to see a local contractor get that.
It's really nice to see local contractors and local people working for them, and it's really nice to keep up with our roads and keep them looking good.
We get by a winter, maybe.
Yeah,
Better puts.
yeah. They probably won't start this week.
Probably.
Okay, any other discussion on the resolution? We'll have roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Gullickson,
Yes.
Wallers,
Yes.
Salvi, Mayor Gee.
Yes. We have a resolution authorizing an extension of a wastewater pond monitoring well and land agreement lease.
Yeah, and this is really just clearing up some documentation that never really, was kept up with. And Brad Fair came in and talked to me about this because he took over all the land basically that his dad Lloyd had. And so he indicated that the agreement for us with regards to the wells that are on their land by the ponds needed to be updated and the names needed to be changed. So it's actually not a lot of land that we're talking about. 6 acres originally in the agreement. They talked about if the city wanted to lease the land from them, it'd probably be the same amount of money that we would charge for leasing farmland from them. So it's really a housekeeping thing. We're required to have monitoring wells out by our ponds to make sure that nothing's leaching out of the ponds into the surrounding land. So that's all this is about.
We maintain those, I'm assuming.
Yeah, we're responsible for maintaining them. Yeah, and it's kind of nice to have, we can actually send you color maps now.
Yeah.
So you can actually see, if you can't, can you all figure out how to rotate them?
Mhm.
So if you go up to the view and rotate them so you can see the map. Yeah.
It's a pretty good arrangement.
Yep.
I'll move on that resolution authorizing an extension of the wastewater pond monitoring well and land agreement and lease.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion on the resolution? Well, roll call vote, please.
Senator Dawson,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Saudi, Waller,
Yes.
Mayor Gay.
Yes. And we have a resolution accepting bid for waste lime removal.
So I emailed that to you if you had a chance to check your emails. Let me see if I can get mine to open up now. So we opened bids this morning at 10 o'clock. We had 2 bids. One from, they're both farmers. One was from Mike's Farm of Starbuck. There's we estimate it's about 2,100 cubic yards of waste lime that we have to deal with each year. The bid from Mike's Farms was $5 per cubic yard to take it away for us, or about $10,500 annually. We did have a bid from Brad Searle. Actually, Brad works for us, but he also farms. And his bid was $12.50 per cubic yard, or $26,250 annually. The estimate in the budget for the water plant is about $40,000 for waste lime removal. So having a local farmer that's interested in coming and getting it and using it to spread on the fields is a big plus for us. So we're getting a really good deal. It's a 3-year contract with the possibility of extending it for another 2 years. Probably the only thing that's kind of an interesting process with this is that there are some requirements in the bid specs that you have a license to take the lime from us. We also have to have a license to produce the lime. Neither one of us can get a license right now because we have to have lime to sample to send into the Department of Agriculture to get it approved. And we can't have lime to sample until we make water and then produce lime waste. So it's kind of a catch-22 that we have to work through. But we are going to have a performance bond from them before the agreement is finalized and they start hauling lime from us, and they have to provide insurance, and it'll be a fairly simple process of dealing with the lime. So the recommendation is to accept the bid from Mike's Farms and authorize a contract with them. So that was a good bid for us.
Yeah, that's a very good deal. I'll move on that resolution, accepting the bid for waste line removal from Mike's Farms as indicated.
I will second that.
All right, yeah, I'm just really extremely happy that it's not going to the landfill.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
so
got a
this-
value,
That is
Yes.
very,
it's gonna be used.
very important thing.
Yeah. Any further discussion on the resolution? We'll have roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Wallers,
Yes.
Selby, Ludwigson,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Mayor Heath.
Yes.
So I got lots of stuff. in-
Okay, city managers
I
report.
got lots of stuff in my newsletter. I think I'll maybe just mention a couple and then leave it open for questions. We're really excited. We think we got, Reggie's just doing the processing now, but we found a police officer that had left us last year who decided to come back, who I think once all the paperwork's done, you'll see him stand before you and get sworn back into the city, and then we'll be up to full strength as far as officers go, and everything looks like it's on a really, really good, positive track right now, so really excited about that. There's an event that's gonna happen on the 27th at the theater, Earth Day movie event. You're all invited to it, a clean energy revolution. And then we're actually gonna have a electric vehicle car show beforehand, so we're open, anybody that has an electric vehicle in town. We know there's at least one Tesla in town, and maybe we can get that here, but, it's a good chance for people to see what electric vehicles look like, and obviously we have one with the city with the Chevy Bolt, and we're really excited about it. And then Guido, is gonna be visiting us here shortly. He's actually coming to Morris to work with us and the university, and so we'll get a chance to sit down with, he wants to meet with you guys, but there's no council meeting during the time that he's here, so maybe we'll try to figure out a way to line up like a evening, go to a supper or something, and then just sit down and meet with you. Seems like whenever they're here, there isn't a council meeting.
Yeah.
It's just the way it works out. And then I answer any questions you might have about anything else that's on there. We have a lot of stuff on the agenda tonight.
Nice to see some interest in the industrial park land.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
indicated that that 10-acre parcel is, sounds interesting.
yeah. Hopefully, we'll be bringing that back to you here shortly to deal with that.
If that 10 acres in the industrial park does get used up, is there any chance for expansion and any more land out there for the industrial park?
Not down there, but I did talk with another landowner that potentially there might be an interest in looking at rezoning land to industrial. And so then I think we'll probably try to have a city planning commission meeting. The hardest part is that you can't really bring stuff up until they're ready for it to come forward, but that is something that we can have a general discussion, and we've already talked about that a little bit. We know who owns the land to the south of the industrial park. It's very good quality gravel land, and this is a road building company, and they don't want to give it up. But, where would we go in the city of Morris to try to establish another place that we could do some industrial? And that's a discussion the planning commission can maybe sit down and take a look at. And there's some interest in maybe, because the one thing that I would tell you that in this last go around, because there's a new processing plant that's going to be coming online, the carrot processing plant, and the county planning commission, had to do some work to get that thing, so it was approved. But there are people that have come to us that said, we'd like to do this, where can we do it? And where can we do it near water and sewer? And we don't have any land, so there are some people that are interested in maybe making sure that there's some land available in the future, so that we don't have to try to find it, that it's there, and then they can, in some cases, it might be people that have other ideas that they might be looking at down the road, where, try to solve that problem now, so that they don't have to solve it when those ideas start coming into play. So it's a good discussion to have. And
The carrot processing plant, are they looking at starting construction construction yet this spring?
I think so, yeah. Yep. They, yeah. I haven't been around that discussion because it went over into the county realm, but, you know, at the time they're looking at planting carrots. So I don't know if that's still the plan this year to plant carrots and then harvest them and process them, but that's kind of the way they like to do it.
My understanding is they've already got carrots planted in other places, so I don't know that,
They'll be trucking them over here.
right, they're just gonna be, dealt with in a different manner than they have been in the past.
Good, I'm glad to hear that we're working on something with the industrial park and to get that, the wheels spinning and rolling instead of waiting until the last minute if we do have somebody that's interested in coming to town or to do something in the industry, that we're able to hopefully get working on that if this year does go through. Thank you.
Any other comments on the city manager report?
Just on, with regards to that 10 acres, did we ever, if I remember right, with the last owner, wasn't there something with the development of the infrastructure under the ground that was kind of an issue or not? Or?
Yeah, that was part of, so the individual that bought that land from us, because of the fact that part of the business that the individual owned was in another town, made him ineligible for state grant funding. Because the state doesn't like to give out money to help somebody move from one town to another. And so that was part of it, and then part of it was they owned other property, and then I think decided that was probably a better fit for them. So this land is actually available for some of that grant money to put in infrastructure and stuff.
Okay, yes, and that's all right, I remember
Yep.
that now, then you just didn't get, it wasn't cost prohibitive for them to do it because they couldn't receive the grant. Is
Right.
Pretty much what happened there. Okay,
Right.
good deal.
Okay. Other business, we need a motion to change our next meeting, April 23rd, to the high school. Is that gonna be at 8:30?
8:30, yes.
Okay, I will make that motion.
I'll second.
AM I take?
AM.
Yeah.
Any,
Just clarify, so we're,
yeah. Any further discussion on the motion? Next meeting. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Anything else to come before the meeting? Okay, meeting adjourned.
Where's the laptop out? Where the whole iPad right out?
that's good. Well, hey, we saved the transit buses bringing us fax or mailing and the paper, and it's,
Well, you think about that, this packet was 37 pages, and you times 5 or 6 of us.
Oh, man, yeah, just stacks and stacks. You know, and there's days, you know, if you got a big agenda and something happens to the copier.
So Mayor, I don't know if we have to plant a tree, we're saving trees.
keep them coming, Wally, keep them coming.
We'll probably keep planning.
But it's nice also to be able to get something that's come through like the bids, to be able to receive them.
Yeah.
Why don't we change